Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and today I'm talking to Denice, who hasn't eaten sugar for over 25 years. Can you believe it? And it started when she realized, after the birth of her children, that there was a connection between her bad sleep and eating sugar. And just before we begin our chat, I'd like to invite you over to my website, aftersugarclub.com, to find out more about how reducing or cutting sugar can help you with your health issues. And also with just feeling more energetic, getting rid of your brain fog, and being able to concentrate better, and also helping with digestion, which is another issue that Denice had. There's lots of free resources on my website, including a free simple guide for you to download to get more energy with less sugar, as well as my 5 tips to help you with cravings. That's on the podcast page. You can also click on the button Join the Club if you want to come join us in the After Sugar Club, which is where you'll get the support, guidance, encouragement, and accountability you need to break free from sugar for good. So that's aftersugarclub.com and click on the button Join the Club. You can also find me on Facebook on the page Life After Sugar and on Instagram at My Life After Sugar. That's where I post pictures of what I eat and what I do and basically how much fun I have in my life after sugar, to inspire you to see that it is possible to have fun and be sugar-free. You can also find me on Clubhouse with my name, Netta Gorman, and my club, Life After Sugar. All right, here's my chat with Denice. All right, so Denice, thank you for talking to me. And can you tell me a little bit about your life when you were still eating sugar?
So thanks for having me, Ned. I appreciate it. I'm trying to think because it was a really long time ago. It was probably over 25 years ago. I've never had a problem with weight. So I have no idea what it's like to lose weight, but I've always had a problem with sleep. And I think that's what I was trying to figure out was how can I get a good night's sleep? So when I didn't eat sugar, like I can fall asleep, but I'd wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and not be able to fall back asleep. And then I'd be awake until 10 o'clock the next day, at night, so they were really long days. And I'm trying to concentrate when you don't get enough sleep. And I had 2 young kids at the time. And I think that's what motivated me. Like when I stopped eating sugar, I slept through the night. So.
And did you make that connection before you stopped eating sugar, or did you realize, oh wait, I sleep better when I don't eat so much sugar?
So I think at some point I had yeast infections, and then sugar feeds yeast. And so that's why I was like, okay, if I cut out sugar while I'm trying to heal yeast infection, that helps that too. And I think that's how I started making the connection.
So, and then the sleep kind of came after that?
Right. Yeah. So I figured out like, oh, I cut out sugar today. Oh, I slept last night. Then let me keep doing that. So.
Because I certainly wouldn't think that there's any connection between eating sugar and sleeping better.
So it's kind of like alcohol. Like if you drink alcohol, like I don't drink alcohol at all, and you fall asleep really, really easily, but you'll wake up in the middle of the night because that's, whatever alcohol does to your brain. So I think that's what made me make the connection, because that would happen to me. We used to go out and drink. I used to drink rum and cokes. That was my Myers rum and coke. And then I'm like, every time I do this, I don't sleep. Like that's what would happen. So, I mean, there are other things related to my sleep issues, like anxiety, of course, and adrenal issues or whatever. Like if I'm a just keep going kind of person. So like if I don't take that time before I go to bed and actually calm down, then I don't sleep well. Like I do yoga just about every night before I go to bed. So,
Yeah, we can't just blame everything on sugar
right. Yeah.
exclusively,
Right.
even though we would like to. So, does sugar have anything to do with your anxiety levels as well? Have you noticed that's made any change?
So right now, like whenever my mother-in-law makes pecan pie. My mother-in-law is 90 years old, and like for the last 5 or 10 years, one time I said, "Oh, I love pecan pie." So every time there's a holiday, she makes it and I eat it, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't really want to eat this because it's not only sugar; it's high fructose corn syrup, which is full of GMOs." And so but I eat it, and I mean, I am bouncing off the walls. Like I can literally feel my system. So yes, I think it increased my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of yoga, and that releases my anxiety, and I'd have to do more yoga. I think I also like exercise, like whether it's kickboxing or weightlifting or stuff. So like they all reduce my anxiety, but I think sugar contributed to just you get that sugar high and then you crash. So I think it contributed to the anxiety. Absolutely. So.
Yeah. And at what point did you say to yourself, let's take the example of the rum and cokes, because that used to be my drink as well. At what point did you say to yourself, it's just not worth the pleasure I have with a rum and coke for everything else that comes after?
So we were probably when I was trying to get pregnant with my first kid. So that was he, he's 26, so that was 27 years ago, and that's when I stopped drinking. And then I nursed. I had 2 kids, and then I nursed each of them for a little over a year. And then after that, I couldn't hold my alcohol, so I didn't drink. Plus, I didn't want to feel hungover for my kids. So I would take sips here and there. But then I think it was in the last year or two that I just stopped totally drinking alcohol. And even just not taking sips, like that would have a an effect on me. So
Just a
that's,
little sip would
yeah,
affect you. Yeah.
yeah, because I have a very fast metabolism, and that it would just metabolize and it would just stay. I don't know. I don't understand the mechanics of it. So that's, I stopped drinking probably like 20 years ago. So
Okay.
I'm not a happy drunk. So
Yeah, I get that. Nor am I. Doesn't take much for me. And I don't actually enjoy that feeling of not being myself.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this was like 25 years ago. And are you telling me that you haven't had sugar in 25 years?
No, because I have a piece of pecan pie every once in a while. So
That's
she
the
can't make
exception.
yeah, she can't make it anymore, thankfully. So no, I can't say, like I do eat, I make a pudding with avocado and cacao. It's not cocoa, it's cacao, so it has more magnesium. And
Yeah.
I put maple syrup in there. So it's not white sugar, it's not processed sugar, it's grade A maple syrup. But it only has 5 tablespoons, 4 to 5 tablespoons, and I eat it over about 5 or 6 days.
Oh, yeah, that.
So that's, and every once in a while, I'll take honey in my tea. I make muffins that have honey in them. They're gluten-free, dairy-free muffins, and they have a little bit of honey in them. So that's pretty much all the sugar I have. I do eat dried fruit. So like
And that doesn't kind of trigger you or set off bad sleep or anything else?
it doesn't, it maybe, I'm trying to think, it depends on what's happening in my life. If it's a stressful day and I have that sugar, like I have that, then it might cause a problem. But then that's stress related too.
Yeah,
So
it's difficult to separate all the different variables.
yeah,
But I mean, and it's great that you found this balance, of which types of sugars don't trigger you and which do, and which to keep away from, and which you can. And when you talk about the pecan pie, did you used to eat it because your mother-in-law, you didn't want to sort of reject your mother-in-law's pie, really, and to save her feelings? Or did you eat it because you really like it?
I really do like it. Number one. Number two, I did eat it to make her happy. And that was worth it to me, because um, I didn't have the best relationship with my mother. My father died 13 years ago, almost 14 years ago. My mother died like 3 to 4 years ago. So I didn't have the best relationship with my mother. So my mother-in-law has really been a major factor in my life. Both my in-laws have. And so I consciously made that decision knowing it would make her happy, because she did go out of her way to say, oh, can you eat this? Oh, can you eat that? Like, because I don't eat gluten, I don't eat dairy. I eat chicken, turkey, but I don't eat meat, so that like, you know, their three favorite food groups are beef, sugar, and butter. All of the things I don't eat. So it is, but she would wanted to make me happy, so I wanted to do, and I didn't necessarily experience that, growing up. So, and not
Yeah,
that my mother was a bad person, she wasn't, but it was a different relationship. And
yeah, I get that totally. Yes. So tell me, what are the like the benefits of for your health, your mental health, your anxiety levels, and just generally, what are the benefits for you of not eating, let me see now, sugar, not eating dairy, right? And not eating gluten. Basically, not eating processed foods.
basically, yeah, like I make everything from scratch. Not everything, like I'm blessed to live by a turkey farm and she makes bone broth. So I get bone broth there. So like
Oh,
some things,
great.
yeah, so some things I do buy, but I know her personally, I know the owner and I know how she makes it. So, so not eating gluten, when I don't eat gluten, I have a clearer head. I definitely get brain fog when I eat gluten. Number one, dairy, like so what happened, I was nursing my firstborn and he, he was a very colicky baby. And my sister-in-law said to me, why don't you stop eating dairy? So I did. And he was a changed baby after I stopped eating dairy. And then that was about June. And in the past, I had never been able to breathe during June because that's high season, allergy season. And I could breathe that June. And I was like, okay, that's it. So that was definitely 27 years ago, 26 years ago. So 27. But
And that must have been quite rare in those days
yeah.
to even think that dairy's a problem or a thing or
Right. So they
so
had lactate milk at that time, but that
okay.
that was it. I don't think they had almond milk or anything like that.
Hmm.
So, so that's when I stopped eating dairy, and that just being able to breathe was a huge difference.
Yeah,
So
I guess being able to breathe is a pretty good, is a pretty good benefit. Yeah, that's amazing. And also the benefit of your baby being
right. And
being
he
yeah,
wasn't,
just feeling great.
yeah, he wasn't as colicky. And the other, like when I stopped eating beef, like beef was probably 10 or 15 years ago, somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago. Like I stopped eating it. And then about 3 months later, I had a hamburger and I was just dead on the floor the next day. I was just flat out. And I was like, okay, never again. And even we were traveling somewhere and we had to stop at my in-laws on the way home. We were dropping my kid off at college and I was so hungry. She had vegetable soup that had a beef base. I ate that. And this was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And again, I was like just destroyed the next day.
Yeah,
So
isn't it crazy how these
yeah.
foods affect us so differently?
And you
Yeah.
just have to be aware. You just even like people keep diaries and everything. And I don't know if it's just that I have an awareness of how my body feels the next day. So plus somewhere in there was a diagnosis of IBS and fibromyalgia. And I'm like, okay, so I'm like, let me figure this out. Like you're bringing up all these memories now. I'm like, let me figure this out. That's going to make me feel better without, doing 100 meds, pharmaceuticals. So
Yeah, oh, totally. Yes,
yeah.
yes. If you
So
can keep those to a minimum, all the better.
yeah.
So, and did you find that was it all dairy that was a problem for you? Like even fermented dairy, like kefir and yogurt and cheese?
It is. It is because I eat. I've tried kefir. Is that how you say it? I have no idea. And I've even tried goat products,
Yeah.
goat milk products, and it's still the same thing. So it affects me for some reason. So
Okay. Yeah. Some people it's the protein, yes,
yeah,
or casein, or yeah.
yeah,
Okay. And so be it. I mean, do you live a perfectly happy life without those things?
I do. I do. I miss cheese. I cheat with cheese periodically. I really miss cheese, and I try to get like unpasteurized milk cheese. Like whatever it's called, I forget.
Good raw French cheese. Oh my
That's
gosh.
it. Raw. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and that's a little bit better. So, but it's still like that's the only thing I really, really miss is cheese. So
Yeah, I get that. Yes, my daughter says everything's better with cheese on top.
it is. So
But I mean, it's just not worth the hassle and the pain that it gives you if you happen to be
not
intolerant. Yeah.
right. It takes 3 months to get dairy out of your system. It takes 6 months to get gluten out of your system. So
So how do you handle like social situations? I know we don't have a whole ton of them with the pandemic right now, but if you're at a party, at a dinner party, at a restaurant with your mother-in-law as an example you gave, how do you handle these social situations when you've got restrictions for what you eat?
So if we go to a restaurant, I look at the menu before we go. Like before the pandemic, I would always look before we went to see, is there something? And if I have dairy, it's not the end of the world. You know, I'm not comfortable, but it's not the end of the world. But gluten, I don't like to have gluten. You know, I'm not saying that I'm 100%. I'm not. Like I can go for a while and then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh crap, I have no choice but to eat gluten. So you know, so I would just look at the menus ahead of time. If we go out somewhere, like I will either A, bring snacks to tide me over. Like I said, I have a very high metabolism. I eat every 3 to 4 hours, and I'm pretty consistent with that because do you ever see spots? I see spots. So
Yeah, I've never
I
experienced
get little
that.
sparkly spots if I don't eat every 3 to 4 hours. So,
Okay.
and not all the time, but sometimes. So I'll bring a snack or I'll eat before I go, or like I'll make a salad and take it with me. Or if we're going somewhere, like when we would go to my in-laws, like and for a holiday, I know my sister-in-law eats the way I do. So like I make more healthy stuff, like healthy stuff, and she'll eat that and she'll bring healthy stuff. So there's always something to eat.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
but, and then like I knew like going, and I don't mean this to sound like going to one of my other relatives, let me put it that way. So I'm not this specific, but I knew that that person was not accommodating to my diet. So I knew going in, okay, make sure I bring something just for me so that, you know, I can eat this part of it, but not the rest of it. So,
Yeah, because you're not, being difficult or
right.
you don't have what they call orthorexia, where you've got to eat healthy because it's your belief system and all that stuff. It's basically you just don't want to feel like crap.
That's what it all comes down to. I want to sleep and I don't want to feel like crap. So,
Yeah. And it's about, I think it's 50% about the food and 50% about just at our age, just wanting to feel good,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's like it says as much about our relationship with our food as it does our relationship with ourselves.
I agree 100%. I never put it that way. I never thought of it that way, but that is because you're right. There's other social situations with friends. And one of my best friends is an Italian. And as an Italian, she serves food. She wants you to eat it. And, you know, because she's Italian, eat, eat, eat.
Yeah.
And we meet every Friday night with a whole bunch of us, and it's after 7 o'clock. And I don't like to eat after 7 o'clock at night. So my trick there was I would brush my teeth before I go, because if I brush my teeth, I don't want to eat. So
And how did she react to this? How did she respond?
she would, you know how, I don't know if scoff's the first word, but she would just show her displeasure on her face. But I'm not eating to make her happy. I'm eating to make me happy. And like it's a relationship with yourself. Am I going to eat to make her happy, which is going to make me bloated? There's a lot of bloatedness in this. When I eat sugar, I can tell, or dairy, there's a lot bloatedness happens. And like, I don't want to feel that way. So, I'm eating to make myself happy. I'm not eating because that's what makes me happy.
And
So
do you think she felt like a little bit rejected?
she's a strong enough person that I don't think she did. I think she thinks that I don't eat enough because I'm 5'9.5" and 135 pounds on a good day. Like I have no idea what it's like to lose weight. Like even after my pregnancies, I went back to pre-pregnancy weight. So
Mhm.
I have no idea. And so I can't say that feeling. So I think that's why she thinks I need to eat, because you need to gain weight. You need to gain weight. And I'm like, no, I don't.
Yes, it's quite difficult, to see someone who eats healthy or who has restrictions and isn't overweight. It's like, well, why are you doing it? If you don't have weight to lose, why the heck would you be doing this? Yeah. So, I mean, I understand because I never had a lot of weight to lose, and
Yeah.
it's not everything comes down to weight loss.
Right. It doesn't. And it comes down to digestion, because I remember one Christmas, my niece and I were playing games and we just kept snacking the whole day. Like I didn't give my digestive system a break. And I think that's when IBS started.
Mm.
And like I remember that day distinctly. So it's that, okay, eat, don't overeat, and take a break in between the times you eat. Like I'm very careful not to snack in between meals. So,
Okay.
but
Okay. Yeah. And how did you get diagnosed with IBS, or is it just the feeling that you have according to your symptoms?
I think I probably did get diagnosed with, because I've always dealt with constipation also. And then, so I went, it's always been a journey of trying, like reading, because finances were limited with 2 kids and 1 income. So it was always me researching. There's a book, Prescription for Nutritional Healing. It's by Balch, Balch is the last name. It's a married couple, and they have different versions. So reading that book and just kept researching and figuring out what would work. So I think that's where I, came up with restricting my diet so that, to make you feel better, and it worked. So that's
Yeah.
what I did. And so
Do you feel restricted?
I don't, because I still can eat chocolate. I'm a happy camper. So.
Is that everything's better with chocolate?
And it's 88% chocolate, so it's very low sugar. It says endangered species bar, and I don't eat it every day, but so
Yeah.
like that's the only thing I think I would really miss. But no, I don't feel it's restricted because I love vegetables, and that's my diet. Luckily I live in a place where there's a lot of farms, so I get very fresh vegetables. So not right now because it's the dead of winter, but
Yeah, I get it. And so I just want to come back to what you were saying about your constipation, because it was the thing for me for 15 years. And the doctors kept telling me, eat more fiber, eat more fiber. And it was just making everything so much worse. But I mean, who thinks of questioning their doctor? Did
right.
you get told that as well?
I did. I've been told that many, many times, and it's just I kept reading, and I'm trying to think who I ended up eventually about 4 years ago working with a functional doctor, a chiropractor who's a functional doctor, and he was the one, like SIBO was in there recently within the last 4 years, and he was the one that really helped me, and it's clearing out your intestines basically. Like, are you old enough that you had your first colonoscopy yet?
I have had it. In fact, I asked for it because I wanted to make sure that there was nothing like mechanical wrong with me. And there isn't. But yeah, I actually asked for one. Who would do that? But I did it.
So, but I remember feeling really good. So there is something, I have what they call a tortured bowel. Like there's a little twist somewhere in my intestines. So that's part of the problem. But I just felt amazing that day because you've cleaned out your whole system. So
Yeah, I know what it feels like
yeah.
after years and years of being constipated. You feel like running out into the street and telling everyone that you just went to the bathroom.
It does. And you feel so much better after going to the bathroom.
Oh, so totally. And it's just wonderful now not to have that problem anymore, not to have to take pills and potions and
Yeah,
yeah, and it's very uncomfortable.
it is. It is. And it's
Yeah.
funny. I just got together with some friends in the middle of a pandemic, but we were in her house. Anyhow, and it's all women in their 50s and a couple early 60s, and they all have a constipation issue.
Isn't
So,
that funny? Is
and
it more a woman thing?
I think so. They all manage it differently, but they all have it. So, but
Yeah.
it's
And you don't have it anymore?
it goes in and out. So right now I do have it, and I haven't reached out to my functional doctor yet, and I should. So, but I also have osteoporosis. So I went vegan for a long time, and I was taking a calcium supplement, but it was the wrong calcium supplement.
Oh,
And plus, I have it. My mother had it also. So that so I'm on medicine. I'm on a medicine that builds bones again. So I think that might be part of the problem, and I'm done that in like I think 25 days or something like that. So I'm kind of waiting to reach out to him till then. So
okay. So what main difference did you find between a regular doctor and a functional doctor in the way that they approached your health problems?
the functional doctor listens. The functional doctor looks at the whole big picture. When I go to my GP, like she'll look at a few things, but she won't touch my thyroid issues. She won't touch my osteoporosis issues. And when I go to the rheumatologist for osteoporosis, she doesn't even look at anything else. And when I go to my thyroid doctor, she was offended that I didn't realize endocrinology could handle osteoporosis. And I think she was a little bit offended that I went to a rheumatologist, but I didn't know. So, but they don't talk to each other. Nobody talks to each other. So you really have to be your own advocate So, I also have a medical doctor who does integrative medicine. So he's the one that orders the funny tests that I want, the extra tests. So it's having this whole team of people, but I have to manage it. So it's research. So the constipation just happens. It started happening again within the last couple months. So I've been trying to figure out on my own what's going on, and I haven't been able to. And that's when I'm like, okay, I have to reach out to my integrative medicine doctor and my functional doctor. So
Yeah, and I mean, functional medicine, at least where I live in Quebec in Canada, is not well known at all. Is it quite well known where you are?
it's getting more well known now because there's one of my clients she's a physical therapist, but she's also become a functional medicine practitioner. So they're popping up more and more, and they're talking about all these issues. It's very like the medical medium, like he talks about it some way, like he comes at it from one perspective, and there's different people that are popping up, like thyroid perspective or general health, like medical medium, or whatever other things there are, things to come at it, like the paleo, like it was the IBS. There's two people, I forget, it's Mickey and somebody else. I forget their names, but they anti-inflammatory. They're, if you have any like a disease caused by inflammation, that's how they're coming at that, because you're eating an anti-inflammatory diet and a paleo or whatever. They came up with a whole recipe book. So
amazing. Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's the word I'm looking for. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that link between inflammation, systemic inflammation, and a whole host of health problems is now being made more and more. And so did you get the feeling, you were saying that the functional doctor sort of listens and looks at the whole picture. I can't wrap my head around the fact that, traditional doctors don't do that.
They don't.
I mean, why not?
I don't know, because I had something going on in my life that was major, major stressful, and I could not remove that situation from my life. I just had to get through it. But that caused a lot of health problems, because it's just, I was constantly on edge. And that, so that had, like, there's nothing I could do about that. And I'm in therapy for that, that kind of thing. I was doing all I could for that. But so they would listen to that, and I don't know if they understood how much of an impact they did, but my functional doctor said to me, I used to do this. I understand how stressful this is for you. And just saying those words, like my doctors would say, oh, that's really hard. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But he actually said, and that it just was more compassionate. And my other doctors are good. Don't get me wrong. But just that compassion was there. Like he gets it. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not trying to diss doctors at all. I have huge respect, but it's just quite amazing to me that, the act of listening and being compassionate, like you're explaining, it's not necessarily an automatic part of our appointments with our family doctors.
Right. And it's, in the US, I think it's driven by insurance too. Like you have this amount of time to spend, and don't tread outside of your zone. I think they're kind of told that, so that's kind of what they follow. Where I think in the past, when we were kids and everything, they were more like the TV shows where the doctor on like Grey's Anatomy goes the extra mile to figure out this really rare thing. Which is,
Yeah, because TV is just like real life.
yeah. Totally unrealistic. So.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, and here in Canada, we have free healthcare, but we still have that time restraint. Obviously, you can't give an hour to every patient, whatever the system. But yeah, it does feel sometimes that, there's very specialized doctors, and this whole integrative, holistic kind of approach is not, it's not something that you find in a regular doctor's room. Yeah.
And even my medical doctor, who's an integrative doctor, he listens even better. He listens better than my other doctors too. So, but
yeah, it's quite a skill to listen and to be empathetic, for sure. Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for talking to me. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Netta. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. What an inspiring person Denice is, don't you think? I mean, you'd imagine that 25 years without sugar and with her difficulties with gluten and everything else would mean that she'd have a sad and dull and joyless life, right? But no, she feels so much better with sugar and gluten out of her life. And even if we're told that foods with sugar and flour and gluten are treats or just for special occasions, well, if they make us feel bad, then why are we eating them and why are we being told that they're treats? So in Denice's case, and I get that because it's the same for me, a little bit of everything in our diet is not the way to go, not because the foods are bad, but because we just don't feel good eating them. And if that's the case for you too, but you're finding that it's easier said than done to ditch sugar, then head on over to my website aftersugarclub.com and click on the button Join the Club to get all the support, the encouragement, the guidance, and the accountability you need to really break free from sugar for good. You'll be guided by me and supported by others who get you because we've all been there and we're all on the same journey to feeling free from sugar. Believe me, it's a wonderful place to be. And if you've enjoyed this episode, scroll down and rate it and leave me a review to tell me how this podcast is inspiring you in your life after sugar. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you'll get it on your podcast app every single Sunday. Thanks for listening. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.